Hi everyone, how are you doing today? I am Constance and thank you for joining me in the next episode of my English class. In this episode, we're going to be having what? Story time. All right, we're going to be having story time. And you know we're going to continue from our George and Venous story. I know it's a while, but I'm back here once again to share with you our George and Venus story. And now we're at episode 16, right? Episode 16. So let's see how the story goes. All right, put on my head here. All right. The sun was still bright and lovely Sunday evening when George Greenback left from the International Money Station where he had gone to send funds to Mr. Nana in his village. It was approximately a 5-mile walk all the way back to the top of Nesbury Hill, where his house had been located. And even though tired with the miles in front of him, George felt quite happy as he placed one foot before the other, trying to make his way back home. He was feeling quite happy because he had ran into Regina Brown at the appointed time when he desperately needed some assistance, and she was happy to give him a fund of $20 so he could send the money to his village. And she was very happy to oblige by slipping him that money so he could complete his transfer transaction. Being in his mood of elation, George thought about his girlfriend Venus, his mother, and the men from his village who were about to come and stay with him for work at the office in which Venus's father had just established for him to operate. He also thought about how fortunate he had been to be in such a position, overseeing this office which will be trading oil in the community of Nesbury Hill and beyond, along with learning his mechanic trade with Mr. Zeman, who was willing to still accommodate him in the evening hours so he could carry out his daytime hustle or job assignment. George knew his way back home, but he was very lost in his thoughts as he footed back home to the top of the hill. He could actually see and feel the children he wanted to have with his girlfriend Venus. Strongly, he could hear them laughing and playing and found himself periodically laughing in his moment as periodically laughing in this moment as he made his way back home, and even caring to glance around, not even caring to glance around at the environment for good or for danger. However, George was now at the foot of Nesbury Hill, just about ready to climb the steep paved road in front of him, when suddenly a female voice called out to him, startling him in his tracks and have him grabbing onto his chest. For a while, George stood there staring at the unrecognized figure across the street. "Do I know you? Do we know each other?" George finally managed to ask. His face was showing suspiciousness and concern at the same time, while something about her charming smile touched his heart. Still standing there reading her face and waiting for a response, the stranger eventually responded, "Not really." I'm working on the same building where your boss, I think, has just opened an office. I overheard him calling your name, and I felt like saying hello since I have recognized you coming up the hill. The female stranger explained. Oh, okay, George exclaimed. The female stranger explained. Oh, okay, George exclaimed with nervousness in his voice. Not nervous because she was a female calling out to him, but because he began wondering if she had seen when he had pissed his pants on that very day. Entertaining the thoughts of embarrassment and pleasure at the same time, George politely uttered, "That's nice of you to step. That's nice of you to stop me and say hello." He then smiled at her and then was on his way up the hill once again, leaving the stranger alone standing there with her beautiful smile. But right then and there, George didn't care for the stranger's knowledge of him pissing his pants. But could, sorry, George didn't care for the stranger's potential knowledge of him pissing his pants to cloud his pleasant thinking in the moment. He had a lot on his mind to figure out. And soon his thoughts were off Venus and those beautiful babies they could produce in the future. And now he began thinking about the 6 men coming from his village to work with him and Venus's father, Richard Thomas, along with his friends from the mechanic shop, Mike and Sam. He tried harboring optimistic thoughts, telling himself that everything will work out just fine until he was standing in front of the big brown door used for entering his house. Now George was letting out a sigh of relief. "Ah, I'm glad to be home," before climbing the steps leading to his living room. Like a stray cat, he was very happy to be home in one piece and taking a brief moment to reflect before fixing something to eat. George quietly sat on the kitchen island, but a ringing of his phone would disturb his silence. Needing to quench his thirst, George answered the phone with a hoarse voice. "Hello," he said. "What's the word with your village boys?" came the forceful words of the caller. "I sent money for their tickets for them to arrive here, so I'm expecting them to be here by Wednesday." George responded, "Open the front door. I'll be there in 5 minutes," commanded the caller. Without hesitation, George obeyed and was pleasantly surprised to see a large truck with beds and other furniture and other types of furniture loaded onto it at the front door, and Mr. Richard Thomas hauling bags of unperishable foods from his big black Mercedes truck. It seems like the devil has changed his heart. It seems like the devil has a change of heart here. George laughed and mumbled to himself. "Come and give me a hand here, George," shouted Richard Thomas. Immediately, George hurried over to the fancy truck and began grabbing handles of many bags at the same time, and with much muscles, he brought them up to the top of the stairs and rested them there. Soon Mr. Richard Thomas was up the stairs behind him with the bags of grocery in hands, where he placed them onto the kitchen floor. Meanwhile, the men the men on the furniture truck lift, pull, and all several pieces of furniture up the stairs and placed them in their various rooms. But soon George began having second thoughts and began wondering what was Richard Thomas's motivation for bringing these furniture here at the house, especially since he had sternly told him that furnishing this house would be his damn problem, his responsibility. But George wouldn't dare ruffle anyone's feather with his questions. Therefore, he intended on waiting for everything to be played out, or for Richard Thomas to spill the beans on his intentions for doing this, furnishing the house. Bringing the groceries he could understand, since they were going to have these workmen from out of town there. However, as the dust settled that Sunday evening, Richard Thomas made it clear that after 2 weeks of working with him, they would be on their own. They would be providing their own damn food. All right, they would be providing their own damn food. So this is the end of episode 16, and you guys can see how the story is eventually building. All right, we start from episode 1, now we're at episode 16. So where the story is going to go from here? Will Venus and George get married? Will the workmen from his village work out? Or will they abandon the job and go out on their own? Where could it go? There are all different type of scenarios that could happen. But as we say, we are building the story, so we will see where we bring the story from its present state to its next state. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, so whenever I post the video, you will be the first to have it. My name is Constance, right? And please check the description box below for my merch, okay? And I look forward to you joining me in my next class. Until then, bye-bye.